Hi everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw! We are taking a look at all of the new cards we know about in Paldean Wonders. I'm over on PokemonZone.com where I'm pulling these cards up right now. We're going to go through each card that we see in the set and we're going to give it a rating, and we're doing this live on stream. So I'm going to have some feedback as I'm going through cards and kind of talking about it, and I'll bring some of that to you as well. So let's get right into it with Sprigatito. I think this set, obviously, Paldean Wonders, we know there's going to be a Meowscarada EX. I would wager that we are also seeing Fuecoco, or I should say Ceruledge and Quaxly EX, but we don't know exactly what they're going to be yet. New Sprigatito is right here, 60 HP, 20 damage with leafage. This is a card, I don't know if I mentioned this, we have a brand new rating system. So we've been rating this out of coin flips for a long time. It was like 1 to 5 coin flips. And I didn't love that system. In fact, I feel like every video I talked about how I did not like that system. New system, ice pops. So it's 1 out of 5 ice pops. Way better. That system is clearly better. Okay. New Sprigatito, 60 HP, 20 damage with leafage. For me, this card is full-on filler, I would say. This feels like not a great card. I like 60 HP as, you know, a basic in some ways, but considering what we already have for a Sprigatito, this feels like a bad card. I'm going to give this 1.5 ice pops out of 5. And the big reason, of course, is because of the Sprig we've already got. The Sprigatito, the classic cry for help. It is also 60 HP, and you put a random grass Pokemon from your deck into your hand. Now, here's the thing. The interesting thing about this, we're going to move forward and talk about Meowscarada here in a second, is there is a possibility that you could use the other one depending on how good your hand was and how you were planning on getting to your Meow line. But in general, this Sprigatito that we got way back when seems to be a lot stronger than new Sprigatito. Now that we're on the conversation, I think we should hop right into Meowscarada EX. And this is kind of a big one, but I do think this is like one that we should probably talk about right away. Meowscarada EX, 160 HP. Ooh, I'm realizing part of this is cut off. Hold on, gang.
A few moments later.
160 HP. Flower Trick for a single grass energy. You choose a spot between your opponent's active and bench, and at the end of their next turn, boom, 70 damage to that spot. A few interesting things about a card like this is this actually in some ways is going to make the Protective Poncho a little bit better. Oh, hold on. I see what you're saying, Keyblade.
2,000 years later.
Okay, so the Protective Poncho gets a little bit better with Meowscarada EX. However, if you're targeting the active spot, the Poncho doesn't really do too much. And this also sets up some interesting KOs on your opponents in weird ways, where the damage drops at the end of their turn. So if they have sort of a status condition on them that is carried over, you know, if the poison hits and then it drops, you set up some really interesting KOs with Flower Trick, and targeting the active spot will mostly always assure yourself that you're going to at least get the 70 damage. There are so many weird situations that you can like make happen with this attack, and it's probably my favorite part about the card. Also, I think it's amazing that this card by itself is an EX with a single energy and a 2 energy attack, which sets up some cool stuff. So if you are turn 1, you can turn 1 Sprigatito, you can rare candy Meowscarada on turn 3, and you can attack right there. And 70 damage, you know, pretty early is actually kind of considerable. The only problem is your opponent will then have another turn to sort of set up their cards. The next attack, obviously, 2 energy, 80 damage with Solar Beam. Not an incredible amount of damage, but also not a huge investment for Meowscarada, only 2 energy. This also reminds you that, you know, the base Meowscarada can be sort of slotted into a lot of these decks and used instead of Meow EX. If that's like, if you pull it and you go, I don't want this, use May or something, throw in Meowscarada EX, grab base Meowscarada, and just start attacking your opponents. So I do think Meowscarada EX looks pretty cool. They only showed us a couple EXs on this set. And this is probably the best one, not to mention the fact that grass decks have a lot of, great stuff going on. They have quick grow extract and leaf capes and on and on and on. I'm going to go ahead and give Meowscarada EX 3.5 ice pops out of 5. I think it's pretty good. It doesn't seem phenomenally broken. I do like that it does very well early. And that could be pretty powerful. And I also like that it's grass because we have so many dark decks out there, so it is cool to have something like this. But in a world where Hydreigon, is a non-EX card, generates its own energy with that rare candy situation, and it swings for 130, it doesn't feel like Meowscarada is the most broken. So 3.5 ice pops. I think that's pretty fair. I think it's fair. Next, we're going to take a look at Fuecoco. Fuecoco, 70 HP as a basic with the cheerful singing attack. For a colorless energy, you put a random basic Pokemon from your deck onto your bench. I really like this. I like anything that helps thin your deck out, especially when you're not playing, Entei or something like that, even though you could. But I do like something that helps thin your deck out, and I'm excited to see what this line looks like. So I think this is a good, on its face, this feels like a pretty good card. The big issue, of course, is the retreat cost. 2 retreat cost is a lot. However, outside of that, I think this is pretty dang solid. You could go a few different ways with Skeleton. Yeah, from the chat, Buddy Christ in the chat. Great reference, by the way. Buddy Christ in the chat. Fuecoco being colorless makes me think Skeledirge will be psychic. Totally fair. We also might have like a Skeledirge EX that's one and a Skeledirge that's the other, which could be kind of cool. But yeah, that's a great point. It might be psychic as well. It also might... We don't have any cards besides dragons that require 2 different color energy, do we? It's only dragons, yeah? That's kind of a rule I feel like they've set up in this game, but maybe I'm missing one where that's not the case. However, Fuecoco, I think this card is good, and I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm going to give this 3 coin... Did I say coin flips? Jake. I'm going to give this 3 ice pops out of 5. I think this could be a really good card, and I'm excited for the line, for sure. Quaxly, might as well talk about Quaxly. 10 damage for Splashing Dodge, also 60 HP. I don't love Splashing Dodge. We have another couple cards that have like almost the exact same attack. Oh yeah, Lugia. That's a great point. Thank you. Lugia has 3 different energies. Splashing Dodge, this is fine. So the 10 damage doesn't feel like enough. And then preventing all damage is okay. But oftentimes with a lot of these cards, you're looking to evolve, right? I think this is kind of bad. And water cards, because of Suicune and Misty, I feel like, and Greninja, I feel like water cards don't get a lot of love in this game. They're kind of like, yeah, you've got a good water card. Get out of here. I think this is kind of meh or bad. I'm excited for the line. I want to know what the EX looks like. I hope they don't screw it up because I'm a Quaxly fan. Do I have my Quaxly here? He's right behind us, guys. I've got the Quax back here, so you can tell. I'm a true Quaxly fan. I hope this ends up being cool. This doesn't seem like a great card. I'm going to give this 2 ice pops out of 5. Not amazing, but I am excited for the line and to see where it goes. Next, we've got ourselves... Where do we want to bounce to next? Ooh, you know what? I think it would be fun to probably talk about Pawmi into Pawmot here soon. Let's get through some of the cards where we don't have a ton of information. Smoliv into Arboliva. We don't have a ton of info right here. We just know that this is 60 HP basic with 10 damage for absorb, healing 10. This is just kind of like nothing. We get really no information here. So I would guess that this card is I would just say this card without any other information is not good. So I'm going to give it 1 ice pop out of 5. I don't really know what else to say about it. I guess it's not the absolute worst card possible, but we don't know anything about the line from this. So sure, 1 energy to do 10 damage and heal 10. Kind of a boo from me, unfortunately. Fidough, 1 energy for 20. I think the good thing is The good thing about this card is it's Psychic, and we have a lot of good stuff going on with Psychic right now. However, a 2 retreat cost on this card is rough. You always hate seeing a 2 retreat cost on any of your basic cards. The amazing thing is you're almost guaranteed to play Peculiar Plaza if you're running a Fidough deck. At least that's what I would guess, right? Because of the high retreat cost of this card and just because of how good that is for Psychics. I don't think this will be terrible, but again, we don't know a lot about it. Oh, you think it's going to be Sweets Relay, Bearded? Okay. Maybe we get a Sweets Relay evolution to. What if we got an EX that had Sweets Relay attached to it? I would kind of freak out about something like that. But we'll see. We'll see how this... what is it? It's Dockspun? Is that what it evolves into? We'll see how this looks when it gets into the game. Bread Relay? That would be pretty cool. If it's called Bread Relay, but it works just like Sweets Relay, I would kind of love that. But so far, not a ton of info. High retreat cost. Again, the Plaza negates that. But I'd say 2 Ice Pops. 2 Ice Pops out of 5. Paldean Whooper. 40 damage for flop for 2 energy. In general, I don't like basics that do this at all. I feel like it's almost never that useful. The cool thing about this is a possible Memory Light play. But then again, with Memory Light, I feel like you would rather have the other Paldean Whooper. So let's take a look at it. Get back to some of our cards here. If we go Paldean... So the other Paldean Whooper with Memory Light allows you to attack for a single energy and poison your opponents, which combos extremely well with Paldean Clodsire. 60 damage with Venoshock, of course, and if your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned, you do an additional 60 for only 2. So that combination just feels better in just about every way. And when I see something like that, I feel like this is like a 1 Ice Pop situation for me. This is 1 out of 5. I think the other option is better. I would rather have the other option. Feels like every day of the week. 2 energy on a basic. Yeah. Oh, and searchable with Lycia. Great point. Because it's 50. It feels like I can't see a single good aspect of this, really. I guess 40 damage. It's not the worst thing in the world, but the other one seems so much better. Let's talk about Klawf. Klawf, 100 HP, a basic Pokemon fighting, 2 energy, and it can do 70 damage. So it one-shots things like Oricorio. But, you know, fighting has a lot of stuff that can deal with Oricorio pretty well. That doesn't seem to be the biggest benefit. It also has a huge retreat cost of 3. This does feel like the kind of card that you just play like 2 Klawf, and then, you know, Rampardos or Tyrantrum or whatever. You could easily see that. It has a lot of HP. It does swing for decent damage in the active spot. It will give you time because of its HP to sort of set up your bench and set up fossils and things like that. I don't hate it. I don't love it either. I think fighting does need just generally some help. And again, if you're playing it with a lot of other things, starting with this, if you didn't want to, with the 3 retreat cost, feels absolutely abysmal. I'm going to give this 2.5 Ice Pops out of 5. I'm watching it, but I'm not loving it, I gotta say. Next, we have Ceruledge. So it is a stage 1. We also have Charcadet. You know what? Let's start with Charcadet first, I guess. We do have Charcadet. We see it because of its promo card. 60 HP. It is a fire type card. We don't know its weaknesses and retreat, but we can probably guess, right? 10 damage with punch, and it is colorless. Obviously, you would be able to go back and forth. You would be able to decide in your deck whether you wanted to play Armarouge or Ceruledge. The art is great. I do think we should probably mention that. The art is pretty fantastic. With a colorless and 10 damage with punch, it's just set up to go into either of the new cards. I think it's fine. Colorless is good. 60 HP is good. 2 out of 5 Ice Pops for something like this. And now we're going to go ahead and take a look at Ceruledge. Obviously, we don't know about Armarouge, but we do know about Ceruledge. It is a stage 1, 110 HP, 3 energy, 2 of it being psychic, and then you do 70 damage with Fighting Sword. However, Ceruledge here, if your opponent's active Pokemon is an EX, you do 70 more. So this is 140 damage, but it does require 3 energy. This feels like a card, and it would be a little tricky, but honestly not the hardest thing in the world. This does feel like a pretty good card that you could slot into a Gardevoir deck. So you're hitting with Mega Guard, right? And you can't power the little guy, right? But you would be able to power Ceruledge once you evolve it. Even if you have to put Ceruledge in the active spot, the higher retreat cost doesn't matter too much because you're able to move things around with your stadium. So I think you could do pretty good with it. And because Psychic has its own energy generation right now in a massive way, I think that's why they made this like cost more than Meowscarada from the old set. I do think it's pretty good. 140 damage is solid. It's a lot. It is a lot of damage, but it requires a little bit of investment. The nice thing is, unlike Meowscarada, it's not a stage 2, it's only a stage 1. I'm going to give this 3 ice pops. I like it. I think it's pretty good. And yes, it's true. Ceruledge works with Guard, but only once Charcadet has evolved. That is like important to notice, right? So if you've got Charcadet on the bench and you don't find your Ceruledge, then you hit with Mega Guard, not a lot you can do, you know? But I do think 140 for a, non-EX Pokemon could be pretty strong. In the chat, Turbo Choo Choo, I was reading it like it was Chocobo, says, I feel like Gourgeist is a much better stage 1. It's a solid 70 for a single energy, and you could run Sightseer with this. Good point. So there you go. There's Ceruledge. We've got a new Tinkatink, 60 HP, 30 damage with beat. The nice thing about 30 damage, obviously, is you can KO babies in a single shot. I actually don't remember what the other Tink is. Let me take a look. It's been a second since I've looked at it. Corkscrew Punch for 20 with a single energy. I think I like that more. I don't like having something that requires 2 energy to attack for a basic, so I'm going to go ahead and give this new Tinkatink like a 1 ice pop out of 5, 1.5. I just like the other so much better, I think. I just think that's so much stronger. The retreat on the other is 1. They're both 1 retreat. They're both 60 HP. They're both weak to fire. I just think the old one's just better. It probably outclasses it in every way. You don't want 2 energy on a basic card. I feel like at that point you're asking your opponents to just win the game, right? Now we could talk a little bit about Pawmi. Well, we do Maushold, then Pawmi. New Maushold. So triple gnawing. It's 60 damage, and that's guaranteed. No coin flips there. You then flip 3 coins, and for each heads, you discard a random energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. This just, it's another layer of trolling. It feels like they love the mouse. They love a cheese deck. It's super fun. Agreed. Like everyone in the chat, this is such a fun card. This will be fun. I totally agree. This will be a hilarious card. It will be quite fun. And you could decide how to, which Mausholds to run in your decks. It'll just be a good time. And yeah, Maushold EX soon. Dude, if we got Maushold EX, think about this, okay? If we get Maushold EX, so you run the old Tandemaus, right? Old Tandemaus, if you take a look at what it says, it puts 3 random cards from among Tandemaus and Maushold onto your bench. But it wouldn't grab Maushold EX. So the idea behind this would be you could Tandemaus, fill your bench with all of that, and still have a Maushold EX somewhere in your deck that you would be able to decide how you wanted to play around with your Tandemaus. You could evolve Maushold EX in the active spot. It flips 90 coins. For every heads you get, it does 3 damage. It would be exciting, a lot of fun, a lot of coin flips. I'm very much on board. So what do I think of this card? It's cheese, it's dumb, it's fun. Anything that's cheesy and fun, I'm going to give at least 3 ice pops. So boom, 3 ice pops to the new Maushold. Fun times. Next, let's take a look at Pawmi and Nemona, right? So we have a new Pawmi coming in this set. Random Spark will allow you to do 10 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So anywhere, active, bench, you can do 10 damage to something, which can set up some big plays. We're going to compare this to the old Pawmi that we have. And we'll talk about the old Pawmi and possible new options. So old Pawmi is 20 damage with punch and 60 HP. I think there are definitely some good reasons to run the new Pawmi. You know, just the ability to zap anything, bring that in could be pretty big. However, if you zap your opponent's bench, you're not going to be able to make a play immediately with Nemona. So I think it's okay, right? I like this card. I like something like this. I'm going to give this 3 ice pops. I'm excited to see where this goes. The thing I'm really excited for, of course, is the combination with our new supporter card, Nemona. So Nemona is a supporter that will allow you on your turn to have your attacks used by your Pawmont do plus 80 damage to your EX opponent, right? It's important to note, of course, you couldn't Cyrus and make this play in the same turn, so you would have to find a way to get your opponent in there or have it sit in the active spot and then bring in your Pawmont with Nemona. We don't actually know what the new Pawmont is going to look like, which will be really cool. Like, I'm excited to see what it's like. But at the same time, we do know what the old Pawmont's like because we have it right here. So the old Pawmont from Shining Revelry is a stage 2 energy for 70 damage. Isn't the worst thing in the world. With the additional 80, you're talking about 150 damage on a 2 energy card that is a non-EX. Plus, it has a built-in Rocky Helmet and free retreat. Overall, I think this is a really solid combination. It's not going to be the most meta thing, don't get me wrong. Like, you know, we have to be realistic when we're talking about like the difference between the top 3 or 4 decks and all of these other decks, but this is pretty dang solid. You're able to swing for ludicrous damage onto an EX Pokemon, and it doesn't cost a lot of energy. It has a decent amount of HP. Its retreat is nothing. I like this combination a lot. I'm going to give Nemona 4 ice pops out of 5. This is one of the cards I'm probably most excited about in the new set from all the things we've seen. So we're going to go ahead and hit 4 ice pops out of 5 for the new supporter. We're going to talk about our other supporters here. Arven. So Arven, a new supporter that allows you to pull either an item card or a tool from your deck into your hand. There are a lot of really interesting combinations that you can see. You rank them in ice pops? Of course we do. A lot of interesting combinations that we could see with this. So one of the tough things about this is there's probably something that you're really angling for with a card like this, and you may just unfortunately not hit it. But it is nice that if you build your deck correctly, this will always draw something that you're interested in getting. You know, you rank them in high dragons. That's disgusting. But yes, I understand. Yeah, this right here is pretty good. And I think a lot of people have been noticing how powerful this could be for searching fossils, right? So if we take a look at, can I just look at like a jaw fossil, please? A jaw fossil is an item card right here. So if you have in your deck Rocky helmets and you have, you know, a Rampardos that you're looking to set up or something like that, you would be able to more easily grab this. But at the same time, you also can grab things like rare candy out of your deck. Like, this is not bad. Especially in a deck that runs, you know, a lot of fossils like Rampardos or Tyrantrum, you're looking to get that stage 2 online with a rare candy. This is kind of a win-win. The only problem is if you happen to draw really poorly, you know, and you get all of your tools in your hand or something like that, then you play Arven, you go another tool, that would be tough, right? However, you guarantee a card and it makes certain decks more consistent, and Arven's awesome. I love Arven. So for that reason alone, I am giving this 3.5 ice pops out of 5 because I absolutely love it. Hey, Highlight, thanks so much for the raid. We're just breaking down some of the new set right now and rating them on ice pops. Thank you so much. Welcome on in, everybody. Next, we're going to talk about our stadium, Mesagoza. We are looking at a new stadium. I'm hoping we get one more in this set. Mesagoza, once during each player's turn, that player may flip a coin. I mean, I'm pretty confident in flipping heads, so I don't see why we wouldn't, right? They may flip a coin. If heads, that player puts a random Pokemon from their deck into their hand. The tough thing about this is, you know, it's scary it does give your opponent something. And a great point in the chat too from Knight. It's always tough fitting something like this in your deck and having room for all of the cards you want. I do think there are some decks that are going to run this because it will help you get some of the cards you need, like you don't have a great draw engine. And the more common stadiums become, I do think at some point people are going to run a somewhat good but maybe not the best stadium to cancel out your opponent's stadium and then still like draw things from your deck, right? I think it's just a good stadium that you could run into a lot of decks. And depending on how meta certain other decks are, you can also use this to just kind of break up what your opponent is doing, you know? Arven will thin the deck like crazy. Yeah, Arven could be a really good deck thinning card for sure. I'm going to give this one, I'm just excited about stadiums, to be fair. I don't know how often we're going to see this one. I'm going to give this one 3 out of 5 ice pops just because I like it and I want more stadiums in the game, so I think that's pretty cool. We've been through most of our cards here. We have not talked yet about our last EX, which is Gholdengo EX, 150 HP with a single metal energy to attack. The more metal energy you have attached to this Pokemon, you do 40 damage randomly to your opponents, just like bouncing around, throwing these coins around the battlefield and hitting everything. I gotta say, I think this card's awesome. I think it's cheese, but it's not the worst thing ever. It's a single energy and it's a stage 1. So like you get turn 1, right? Gimme Ghoul. Turn 3, you Gholdengo, you're already hitting for 40 randomly, which is just pretty nice. And then the other option is like, okay, so you get energy turn 1, turn 4, you're flinging, 80 damage. This is going to create some very wild situations. And then of course you also can kind of power this like Celebi. You can use things, people are talking in the chat, Dialga is a great one. We've got Probopass, Metal Core Barrier will keep it alive. Yeah, there are lots of great situations. String Cheese, wow. By the way, Alan, right? Alan, I think you just named the deck, the first deck that we make with Gholdengo. I think it might be String Cheese, right? Such a fun card. I love things like this. So I'm on board with it. Do I think it will be the most meta? No, I don't. But whenever a new set comes out, like I want to spend time playing a lot of the fun stuff. And when you give me a fun cheese card, I'm there for it. So I am going to give this one 4 out of 5 ice pops. It's probably fun level. This is 5 ice pops out of 5. And then meta level, it's like 2 or something like that. But it's such a fun one. I love things like this. And I think Pocket, one of my favorite things about Pocket is when sort of the meta like clashes with like cheesy fun stuff. Because yes, of course, Hydreigon Absol is going to be like the meta situation. Like it's going to be the best, Greninja Suicune. Like, of course, that is the best. But I love getting to sit down and play like Mega Mawile and have an awesome time, especially at the start of a new set. So that's kind of where I see this set. I will have to say overall on the cards we've seen, if I were to give like an overall impression early on this set, I am a little underwhelmed by some of the stuff that we've seen in it so far. It doesn't feel like it has like the punch that you see in a lot of these trailers. Like if we look back at previous sets, right? Fantastical Parade, we have Gardevoir that we saw early, right? We have Mega Guard, which looked pretty good. I think they showed Mimikyu as well, which looked cool. And it had the new stadiums, right? So that felt like, a lot of like excitement. Then we have Mega Rising. Mega Rising had a couple, or sorry, not Mega Rising. Sorry, I'm missing Crimson Blaze. Then we had Crimson Blaze. Crimson Blaze, we got to see the 3 Kanto Pokemon, and we saw a Pokemon like Megachar Y that had a massive amount of damage, right? Like 250 damage. You could just like, okay, like this is the mega counter, So I think that set had some okay hype behind it. We also saw Quick Grow, right? Mega Rising was insanely hype. This set had just crazy amounts of hype. We saw Blaziken, Altaria, Gyarados. Like this set was insane looking. But then before that, we had Deluxe Pack. We had Secluded Springs, which was busted. I think hype-wise, this set kind of falls maybe near like... I don't know. From like the early stuff we've seen, maybe this feels a little bit like some of the early stuff we saw in Eevee Grove or Shining Revelry. But I think, unfortunately for Paldean Wonders, I don't feel like there's anything in this set that really like freaks people out. And that's the response that I've seen too. For me, overall, like my excitement level, I'm always excited to play a new set and build tons of new decks. But I would say like I'm a little middle of the road here. I'm going to give this like 2.5 ice pops out of 5. I would love to hear from everybody in the chat. Like, out of 5 ice pops, where's your excitement level on this set? And then we'll probably end the video. But I just kind of wanted to get like a bit of a barometer from the chat here. Kind of similar to Triumphant Light. I could feel that, although Arceus, like the Arceus link seemed pretty cool, right? It's a mid-looking set, says Supreme, you know? They showed way too many basic Evos, I agree. We got Bearded giving it a 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5 ice pops, fair. Mid-looking set, it's not a mid-looking set, the trailer was mid. Yeah, we don't know what's gonna be in there. Low expectations in a good way, says C-Bones. 2.5 sounds about right. It's unexpected, but they can grow this so well in the future. Oh, totally. 3.5, cool cards, but nothing that makes me want to buy. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Ice Pops hurting my experience in Unite and now in Pocket. 3.5 out of 5. We got a 2.67 from Highlight. I like that we're specific on that. Yeah. Oh, you say trailer hype is -1. Oh my gosh, -1 Ice Pop. I don't think we've seen an Ice Pop that bad. And then we have that one... We have a Pokemon shown on the pack that we didn't get to see, right? It's, was it Chien Pao? I can't remember the name of, like, some of the Gen 9 ones that I did, because I didn't spend too much time with, like, Area Zero and stuff in Gen 9. That's, like, sitting on the pack, isn't it? Yeah, Chien Pao. So I'm interested, that's probably an EX or something, right? I mean, I guess I don't know, but... It feels like something could be there. Yeah, the Sabertooth Tiger guy. So that's interesting. But yeah, Squawkabilly too. Great point. We have Squawkabilly and Arboliva. Yeah, good point. So there you go, guys. That is the breakdown early of how we're feeling about Paldean Wonders. I think some really cool cards, but I would have liked to have them show more as well. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. Love you. I'll see you next time. Data miners, do your thing.